Barman Jackson.
Yep. All right. So if y'all are watching this, this is the first interview we're doing in the group. Appreciate anybody that has joined. On my early joiners, y'all got in for free. More interviews like this going for. I'm really giving y'all a lot of sauce with this first one because I'm low key got like a somewhat of a legend, at least on the level of how I do this. So this will be behind a paywall, and because some of our the questions I'm generally going to do on these interviews are going to be more about how to set up a bar or set up a bar business or take your bar skills and graduate beyond, working from behind the stick, that will be kind of geared more towards the owners and operators section of the community when we open that up. So keep that in mind. Today I have with me the illustrious cannabis consultant, bar consultant, bar lord extraordinaire, barman Jack Sanders. Appreciate you being in, brother.
It's good to be here, family.
As long as everybody knows, I just want everybody to know this is obviously cannabis-friendly interview. We're going to be going into those topics. We're both in cannabis legal states. Those are a part of our legal industries as well as our business pursuits. You know what I'm saying? Tapping, touching. Yeah, man. So like I said, I appreciate you being in. I'm going to go ahead and kind of get into it a little bit. Not waste too much time. How did you kind of get into, give me a little bit about how you kind of got into this, how you kind of got into the bar space, the industry, how that bridged into cannabis, I'm gonna just kind of let you talk at it, bro.
Yeah. So again, it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to speak with you and share space, time, and knowledge for sure. When it comes to my approach on hospitality in general, it's from an ethnobotanical standpoint, right? What I mean by that is that you can look at the usage of various resources by various cultures by the regions that they're located in. And those usages, the way they use, the methods that they use, it changes per culture because it changes per region, because it changes per climate, ideas. A lot of things are just different in those areas. So the way they approach things is different based on that. So my idea about hospitality is kind of the same, being able to communicate with many people across many different usages of pretty much the same resources, right? Mm-hmm. So whether it's food and beverage, whether it's cannabis or other plant medicine, or whether it's just how to set up a place so that we can relax, right? Space is a resource. So the ethnobotanical usage of space is different for different cultures in different regions, right?
It's kind of like how they had. I was just saying, it's kind of like how they had in Full Metal Alchemist. They had the alchemy over here. They had the alkahestry over there. It's kind of like your magic practice changes as land to land.
Right. Or in Harry Potter, different houses, different hats. The way we do things in general is different per place. Right? And so when we start talking about something like this plant medicine, which traveled the whole world, right? And it didn't just travel along the Silk Road. Mm-mm. It moved like how migrating species move, because the seeds that moved with various peoples, and the Silk Road wasn't the only route to America, to the Americas, or to any other place for that matter. So having Dutch landrace strains versus Himalayan versus Kush Valley, again, we're just talking about something being used by people from a cultural perspective as a natural resource, if you will,
like an agricultural product, so to speak.
Right.
That's very important for people to understand when they think about looking at alcohol or even cannabis and seeing it as an agricultural product. And this is like a part of the reason why they call it a spirit is because it is the distilled spirit of the land. You know what I'm saying? Burgundy or brandy, is the French spirit because it's distilled from the agriculture products of that place.
Right. And just even speaking about spirits, right? Because you've got various herbs and roots that were used in conjuration and invocation that are looked at as holy herbs or sacred herbs. You have Baal fruit in India, which is like some hard apple. They dehydrate it, they slice it, they use the leaves and the fruit as an offering to the gods, to be found worthy You know, when they talk about censers in the church, there were three holy woods that were burnt, three holy plants: frankincense, myrrh, and cannabis, and
Yep, ran that by
incense
song.
censers. Yeah, you know, so I mean, like, it's again, when we're talking about spirits, it's a great usage of the word, because it does talk about something that energizes, you know,
Right.
like imparts energy, you know, and in the case, again, back to ethnobotany, for specific action, you know, if we were to put it like that. So when we're talking about food and beverage, we're talking about imparting energy for a specific action, right? And the context of that seems very myopic sometimes. Like, oh, it's just burgers and fries and shakes, right? But when we're talking about an agricultural product, when we're talking about the ethnobotany of it, we're talking about the milk the region that the cows are in, the diet of the cow and how that affects the flavor profile of the milk, right? And we're talking about the acids that are being used and where they're derived from. You know, what fruit acids are being used in order to help make starters, so that when people are making a fully natural product, you know, they're not reliant on highly processed entrants or inputs into that, right? So for smaller, more sustainable processes, what makes them unsustainable at scale is the amount of time that it would take at scale to produce those exact same things that take a long amount of time to
To
make. So
make,
by the
right.
time people are sitting down for the vanilla ice cream, they don't know how to grow a vanilla bean.
Right,
They don't know how
right,
long a tree takes before it can mature, before it actually starts producing the actual
right.
vanilla. They don't, none of that.
People think
None
that
of that.
vanilla
They
is
have
actually
no
white.
clue. Right. And they've never milked a beaver's glands for secretions for
The beaver? You said
artificial
a beaver?
vanilla. Yeah. Artificial vanilla
Wow.
is from like beaver glands,
You
right?
just
They're,
put me
they're musk
on. I had
glands.
no idea. That's
Right.
crazy.
So like again, if they're like using a mixture of artificial and natural vanilla in their product at a place, you know, people are just eating it and they're expecting vanilla. You know, oh, it's so plain. Again, you've
Right.
never milked a beaver's glands for secretions
Hey, we
and
have to
then
put that on the
processed
shirt.
it so that it would
You've
taste like
never.
vanilla. You've never milked a beaver.
Right, 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 right.
You know, like it's it's the little things like that matter so much for so many people who are passionate about the industry on either side of the line, right? Those things matter when they're like, I want things that are only natural flavored, right? Like there's a
Right.
reason I only want natural flavor.
Yeah, it's not just like bougie because I want to be bougie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. It's very lost. It's very lost on people, and especially I was very surprised by that because for Portland to have the representation that it has to the rest of the country because of places like Portlandia, I thought the Pacific Northwest was going to be a lot more farm to table. At least maybe it's just where I'm at, but it was, a lot of people thought it was a kind of like how you were that it's oh fancy to be fancy or bougie to be bougie. And it's like no, like there's a reason there's a reason why sustainability isn't like a hot word. Like sustainability is something that's to be, desired and sought for. I mean, it's really the only way we can evolutionarily remain on the planet is by adopting sustainability as our locus point or our focus point. You know what I'm saying for all action. You know what I'm saying to a certain degree.
Right, right.
So
And I mean,
just to get a little so we're like this is very much higher level than I thought we were really going to, which I love how deep we went just right from get-go, because this is like the type of it's kind of bridging into my real personality, the stuff I don't usually talk about in the bar world, but I'm really appreciative of that. But is that like, are these interests that you had? Like for me, right? Like anime nerd, used to read alchemy books and chemistry, like little, like, making arts and crafts. I was that kid as a little kid, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, were you like that? Was it something that started before you or like something you
yeah.
picked
I
up
mean,
after you got into it?
I definitely have always had curiosity for
Mm-hmm.
sure, and not just like idle curiosity, right? Like if I see somebody outside my window, I'm not like, hey, what are you doing here? For no reason. Like I've got a real
Right,
reason,
right.
and it's not gonna stop at, oh, I'm just walking here. I hope all the Karens watching this are like, I know exactly what he means.
That's how I feel.
That's exactly how. What are you doing here? Why are you here? And what's your favorite color? And why are you not wearing
Right,
that there?
right.
That's a lot of your favorite color. You wear a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
red.
yeah.
You one
It's
of
like,
those gang members? What's that? Anyway,
uh-oh. Yeah. It's like the Dave Chappelle joke where he's like, knocking elbows or like, I had to say something, get them
right.
riled up. Yeah, put it away.
So yeah, and I mean, there's always been a push in my household at an early, so like I've got really old family. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't like the youngest by any
Right,
measure. Like I've got a sister who's got 20 something years on me. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Um, coming from the the space of having like multi-generational knowledge, like I was around my great grandmother who survived Great Depression, right? So there were a lot of things in the house that she did, jars that she would always save. She had a dresser with nothing but buttons in the top drawer. I didn't understand that until I started wearing vests. Right
Later on,
now, I'd be
oh, I see.
losing
I got you.
buttons. I'd be
I
like,
got
God
you.
damn it! I wish I had an extra button. I
Right,
know, I know. They came in the pocket. I don't know where I put those pocket
where I
those
put it.
pocket buttons that they give you, right? Like
Put
now
on, put
buttons
on, put
matter.
on. Yeah, they
You know,
matter.
other
They matter.
people
It's like
nowadays,
it's like
most
it's
people are
like you
just
don't want
like,
the socks when
I
you're
lose
a
a button,
kid.
fuck it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you don't want the socks when you're a kid, and then you
Yeah,
get adult.
no,
You're like, I see why they was giving me these socks. That wasn't disrespectful at all. This is what they was thinking about. Like, you don't need these.
they're right. Good socks are a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so there's like these kind of older entrants, like I was with multiple generations of my family out in the Olympics within 6 months of being born.
Oh, okay.
Like nature, the land, and community have always been a major, major part of my upbringing. I don't say that in a general sense. I mean, I remember doing plant identification studies and walking around the neighborhood and seeing pine cones with all of the saples eaten off and a little hole dug out of them and realizing that that's what a squirrel was eating at the time. Like
Right.
nature of things and how it works. This is like the world around me. It's like walking by people and not knowing their name, and you live on the same block. For some communities, that that's unheard of, right? So you're
Right.
walking through the woods, and you can't tell the difference between pine and cypress. They're all
Yeah.
just green trees to you. They're all just evergreen, you
Right.
know?
It's a needle. Yeah.
Right, right. So like for that level of things, it's like I just want to, know who this is.
Who's in my
All of
neighborhood?
these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't have sugar in my household as a kid. So
Good, man. Good. You're
there
probably
was a
gonna live
lot
longer
of,
for it.
right, right, but, also I was a more serious kid. And I really did spend time reading and taking what I read and then going out and finding it in the real world as not an analog, but an actual thing, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. I love that.
I mean,
I love
those
that.
things combined with just kind of a trajectory to want to get that loot, but not want to damage anybody.
To
Going
do it.
from health and fitness certification into food and beverage because there was this direct. It's not an inverse relationship. There is a direct relationship between where people socialize and what decisions they make as far as what they believe are healthy habits. And so a lot of people that I was having as clients when I was working as a fitness instructor, and I've worked at Gold's, World Fitness, 24 hours, Bally's, like, I mean, like I did my circuits,
Mm-hmm.
personal trainer. Most of the people who had an idea of what they wanted to look like and how they wanted to feel and what the path is to getting to how they want it to feel versus what they want it to look like. The things that they would say are literally just things that this is pre-social media, right? So there's no fact checking. There's no I saw 100 other people say that this is the way, and I follow 100 other fitness accounts, and this is the same. Like this is how you eat macro. This is how right. Like
Right.
there's none of that.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
somebody told them you could be. I had one client. She was 6'2". She wanted to be a size 0. Trying to explain to her the difference between European clothing sizing
Right. Right.
and her goal of what she wanted.
Mm.
and why they're unrealistic. I mean, I've used that as an example for so many times. It's been 23 years since I trained that woman, right? But that being said, that's about the exact same time when I was like, where is this happening at? And in most places, the most influential spaces that people are not schools. It's when they leave schools and they're in social settings. And as we grow up, those social settings become less and less benignly impactful, right? Like, and they become dealer's choice, you know? Like, I'm
Right.
not going to stop you from crashing out if you step into my bar. I will eject you, though. I'll
Right.
eject you.
Right. I'll
Absolutely. I'll
protect
cut you off. I'll tell you you can never come back again. But what I'm not going to do is monitor your behavior,
you.
monitor
Yeah.
anything other than what is that healthy escalation to your vibe, right? I mean, one person having 3 drinks versus another person having 3 drinks. It isn't the same 3 drinks, even if it's the same 3 drinks,
It's the
right?
same
So
three
just
drinks.
because both of them had gin and tonics, this one's getting loud, he's getting aggressive,
Right.
right? So I'm not here to micromanage you. I
Babysit
will
you. Yeah.
absolutely cut you out and eject you
Right.
personally. I will personally eject you. I'm here for all the smoke because I'm here to maintain all of the vibe, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so that space is where I found that more and more people were susceptible to positive changes from a trusted source. Because who's trusted more than the bartender?
Right. Right. Right.
People sit down, they start telling me what's going on with them. I'm
Right.
doing risk managed assessments over the bar top while I'm making martinis, right? Oh, you've got this happening on a regular basis. You say 3 to 4 days out of the week, are you eating this, and that? Oh yeah, I'm eating all of that. Cut
Yeah. You
all
should
of that
stop.
out your diet. Look up FODMAP. Work on your gut biome, and people would come back like a month, 2 months later, and be like, "Hey, the advice you gave me changed my life." Like it
Changed my life.
with far less back and forth than when I was a personal trainer, and they're like, "You don't know what you're talking
Oh
about,"
wow.
even though I'm the buff guy holding the weights, right?
Right. I
Trying
only
to
do this
show
for a
them how to do
living.
a proper push
That's
up.
crazy. Yo, that's a very good point because I have been in conundrums sometimes. I'm like, I don't know if I definitely just gave this person some advice, and I'm pretty sure it was the right advice, but I don't know if I was qualified to say that. Yeah, people definitely trust a bartender more than they trust their therapist. But I think there's also something to that, because of the exposure to people, you do get there is a certain like personable experience. And moreover, what I find is because there's a certain you are very comfortable, but there is a certain like need to maintain a certain amount of professionalism that it like winds up allowing you to zoom out and therefore like give people a little bit of a better perspective, which is interesting to say out loud, but you make a very good point. So
I mean, how
where
often do
did
you
you
see strangers at a bus stop, chiming in on someone else's life decisions? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, hey man, you think I should go to work today? Just to a rando at the bus stop. You think I should go to
Right.
work today? Not really feeling it. But they do that at a bar. They'll come into a bar. Man, I
Uh-huh.
just got off this shift. Man, I don't think I should work this job. Hey, if it's not making you happy,
You
quit
should
it.
leave. Right.
Right? And they listen. They're tuned in. They're tuned in. They're like, well, what do you think I should do? Well, what are you good at?
Right. I feel like they get better advice than we give ourselves to. Like, like I've definitely said that to somebody, and after a shift, been like, you know what? Now that's exactly how I feel about where I'm working right now. I'm just sitting here, just like in it. You know what I'm saying? So, I wanted to ask you though, where is your where was the first place you kind of like worked in terms of restaurants or bars? And did you just start out as a bartender, or did you kind of like work your way up?
The week I turned 21, I was already working back of house for Washington State Convention Center.
Okay.
The week I had turned 21, the beginning of that week, I went and signed up at a bartending temp service. As soon as I hit 21, I was working at a satellite bar as a bartender because they don't train you. They don't train you. They
Mm-hmm.
don't care. They don't care. Believe it or not, drink making is not super complex. It's not as complex as how many ingredients. If I start naming off the list of ingredients, all of the ingredients have multiple words. But for me on this side, it's more like this, cool. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
Most people at that time were drinking martinis and beers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either a whole lot of this and one of these, or two of these.
Mm-hmm.
Here's two of these. I cracked a bunch of beers in one arm.
Right.
You know, so I was working at convention centers, but what that afforded me, because I was doing still both back of house and front of house at the same time, I would be working as a bartender for part of the day, and the other part of the day I'd be working as a prep chef. So I spent a few years in the back of house doing that, and a few years in the front of house doing that, with occasional stints at other convention centers, and then special events at a whole bunch of different hotels. So like the Westin, things like that, they would have their special events. They would contract out services from the actual convention center, like for catering or whatever. They would hold down bars as well as the food. So in the very beginning, I did a whole lot of black and white service.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of step service, a lot of like Russian style service where you've got 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 spoons, 1 knife, 3 glasses, water, red, white, you know, all on the table, and you're pulling things at a course pace regardless if they're done.
Regardless, right? You crumbing in between every course, yeah.
Yeah. So for a lot of the first years, it was very formal service. By the time I made it to fine dining, I had done a stint in dive bars, basically. So at that point, it was just like, you know, scooping with the pint glass. You know, you should never put the glass in the well. I'm scooping with the pint glass. You know,
shaking 10 pint glass.
Yeah, we've got cores in 4 different forms. We've got the cans, we got the bottles, we got it on a draft, and we got it light.
Right, and we got it light, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, so from stuff like that to fine dining, at that point, I'd started working in and out of the state, you know, because you can bartend anywhere. So moving to California, I needed money fast. I had a friend who was working at Red Robin's, but he was a DJ. And so he would throw these parties, and he would be hired for these parties. So the first couple of parties he threw, I would, you know, pour drinks.
Yeah.
I got some cactus liqueur from the corner store.
Right.
So now we're throwing parties at the house. I'm getting my name out there. Got a few connections that are like, hey, why don't you come over here and pour drinks at my house? You know, so I started cutting my teeth in special events, but more importantly, throwing events and contracting my services out for them. So that's like the early 2000s. Then by the time I made it to New York, started working over there. I had a friend who was already bartending in the scene, and so he wrote me up this hilarious fucking resume. Hilarious. Like one of the things on the resume was can open 30 bottles of Grey Goose in 28 seconds.
Come on now.
I'm not playing. The very first place I got an interview with, it was Jana in Midtown, Janna. That's the first thing the guy said. He read over, he's like, okay, all right, from Seattle. Cool.
Here's
Can you really open 30
of
bottles in 28 seconds? I was like, whoa, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Had you done that? But had you done it? But did you do that? Had you done it before that?
Well, it's okay. So like, look, if someone put on your resume that you can jump 4 stairs at a time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Can you jump up 4 stairs?
I'm pretty sure I can.
I mean, you know, not like you do it every day. You know, it's not even might not even be your thing. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's somebody's thing. They're like, I can jump 4 stairs at a time. That's my thing. This is my special talent, right? But it's just Grey Goose bottles. You just grab it and pop the top. Probably about a second. I can probably do it faster than that. You just pull the whole top off.
You don't feel
a weak wrapper. It just slides right out.
Hey, you know what? I could do that. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, it's very doable. It's a very doable thing.
I think I too.
It's a very. We should get a bottle of Grey Goose next time we talk and pop the top. just that fast. It's crazy.
Hey, I'm adding that to a module in the community. I'm showing people how to open up 30 bottles, 30 Grey Goose bottles
Yeah.
in 28 seconds. Add it to the portfolio, put it on your resume. But no, you mentioned a couple good things. I want to sum up that I think would be very good for our listeners because I've already had one of the other interviews I had with one of my mentees. Talked about how, he just went kind of from, I trained him up, from bar back, and then I kind of left the bar that we were both working at, and he stepped into my bar role. That was when I was moving out here. Just without him getting, just with the training and the live, just with our training and then the live experience he was getting working there, he just went directly into working events, and kind of building and branding himself as a business essentially right from get-go, or as a brand and as a name right from get-go, which, especially if you're going to take this seriously, it can, what I'm saying, I don't really think you can ever do it too early, as long as you're humble and you don't act like you don't know stuff you don't know, and what I'm saying, you take a educational type of aspect and a respect for the industry and the craft. I mean, I don't see how anybody.
And that's kind of a good point to like spin off. The bartending is not a monolith. There are definitely bartenders that I know personally who bartended twice as long as me, and they still to this day have never made a Manhattan.
Right.
So if you put them next to me on a fully equipped bar and you started yelling out classic cocktails, they can pour you shots. And they can't necessarily pour them faster than me. But what they can't do is make you 25 Manhattans as shots or as actual Manhattans for a table where you have 25 people who all want Manhattans in the middle of having a full bar top with maybe a Boulevardier, Negroni. Could I get something tropical, red, and reminds me of my grandmother? You know what I'm saying?
My grandma.
So, like, bartending is not a monolith, and the kind of training that you have when you start to mold your identity, especially since there definitely is some ego in bartending, and there's plenty bartenders who are like, this is the way, and I know the right. So before you crystallize on what you think you know, getting specific kinds of training really matters, right? And some training really lends itself to a bird's eye view of what the cocktails are, like lends itself to ethos, and it lends itself to concept as opposed to locking itself in as individual products, right? But I know people who are trained on specific products. Every bar program they have has Bacardi in it, period. They know it. They work with it. It's a tool for them. They're used to building drinks around it. They can give you 1,000 drinks all day long. Right. Absolutely. With all the like pre-bottled syrups, the huckleberry and the roses. I got the limoncello with the huckleberry and the Bacardi. Yeah, throw some mint in there. Hit it with a little bit of sours off the gun. Hit that boy with Sprite. You don't even have to shake it. Just put it all in the glass.
Right. It's mixed.
There's absolutely a large demographic of drinkers who, hearing that, would be like, "Hold up, what did he say? He said huckleberry syrup with the limoncello. That's crazy.
Genius.
Bacardi? Which Bacardi? Which Bacardi? There's so many Bacardis. Yeah, pick your flavor. Get that raspberry one with the twist." So I mean, but I had people who, I did club bartending, and really fast-paced stuff where you're just 1, 2, 3 shake, and you're making lots of drinks. You'll get an order for 25 kiwi lime shots, and have to make them while you're under fire, while you're still taking people 5 lines back, and managing. So coming back home, where by this time Seattle had started strongly trending towards class and how they present things. I had a bar manager who's slightly younger than me, and we're talking about the class schedule that we're putting together. And as I'm shaking a drink, he's like, "You shake like you're masturbating a horse. It is obscene." And I was like, and I thought he was like joking or taking a shot at me, like friendly. I looked at him. He was not being friendly at all. He was dead serious. I don't ever want to see you shake like that on the floor ever again. Right? Like
was
while
he
you're
talking?
while you're building the drink, it should be beautiful.
I see.
I don't
I
care if
see.
we're
I
out of
see.
garnishes. The drink calls for an orange. He hit me with a rant. The drink calls for an orange. I don't care if we don't have any more orange. Whatever you garnish it with, just make sure it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The presentation is a suit with the perfect tie. It's supposed to look a certain way. Make it beautiful. I don't care what you do, but never do that again on my floor. Again, he's younger than me. I didn't even been in this, but I immediately understood what he was saying and completely agreed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, so I studied shakes. I went to YouTube University and looked around. I went and hit some of the classier bars in town. I sat with Murray Stinson.
There you go. That'll get you
I
right.
learned different shakes. I learned how to make it look beautiful, even if the drink is trash.
Right.
I know personally there's a few drinks I put out that I would never serve myself, right?
Yeah.
Which is also one of my criteria.
Right.
But when
Like
I
I hate how
when I
good my
tasted
Long
them,
Island
oh,
iced
that's
tea is.
terrible. But they're like, that's great. That's the best one I had. That's why you're not getting a second.
That's the only blue motherfucker you're having tonight. Okay.
Yeah, it just looked good. That's all. That's all.
Right. Right. Yeah, I made a post. I made my little flagship post for my drink design book on my Instagram. Is the caption is, if you don't make an ugly face when you shake it, it's not going to taste right.
Right. Right.
So so did you ever get into, how much did you get? Because I've seen some of your other interviews on YouTube. Did you ever get into managing much? Is there any
So
kind of like tokens or you could give for that?
so it's funny you should ask. I found that the best position that one could be in is one with a high amount of malleability and control and the least amount of actual responsibility.
Mm.
Consultant. And so, as
Mm.
I've worked as lead at multiple places. I've done the scheduling as a lead because, again, bartending's not a monolith. Neither are the structures. So it's not like you just bump up the closing manager and only closing managers do schedules. Absolutely not. They will have somebody that they not pay any manager money,
To
put
do
the
a
whole
manager's
cocktail
job.
menu together, do all of the scheduling, make
Teach me
sure
the
that the
story of my
supporters are
career.
showing up, like everything. They'll try to get you for
Yeah.
all of that for the
Yeah.
restaurant wage plus tips.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And put none of your name on the menu at all. Like no accolades, nothing, right? So I
Yeah, I
found
know about
that
it. I know about it.
when I was working in New York in the Lower East Side at this really posh place. Now this was when Ed Hardy was big, right? And he had a design studio across the street from us on 4th and Lafayette, right? And they brought in David Rabin, who's like one of the larger spirit program and former club promoters on the East Coast. Like he opened up the Mulberry Project, which is one of the first places to go menuless, where all they had was a list of ingredients written on the wall, and they got wine on the machine, and they push a button. Like they're one of the first places to like really push the package on how to present and build a cocktail on the fly, right? They bring him in. First thing he does is fire 95% of the staff.
Wow.
Brings on a beverage director. We already had a beverage director who's doing a bang up job. Drinks are fire.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought in another beverage director, and this guy just, trimmed down probably another 10% of the bar staff. And so we went
Mm.
from about like 6 males, 5 women to just me, just the day tender, and one of the servers that they were training up for bar, right? And then they hired all new bar staff. Now I'm watching all of this go down. I'm like, this is crazy. Imagine being a beverage director and your boss hiring somebody else who hires somebody else who looks like you to do your job.
That dude looks like you to do your job,
And they
right?
still pay you. But now you just shut the fuck up
Right, right, right.
because you're still only on implementation. Like this guy came in,
Mm-hmm.
designed a new beverage program,
Mm-hmm.
and our actual beverage director was tasked with implementing this new beverage program, right?
Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay.
So I'm watching all this go down. Our sales actually went through the fucking roof. It's working. It's working. Ed Hardy sends over uh, a bunch of jeans and t-shirts So now we all wear jeans and t-shirts from Ed Hardy as bar wear, right? We're dressed in Ed Hardy behind the bar. This is fucking New York in the early 2000s, mid 2000s,
Right.
early mid 2000s. And so, but yeah, it stuck with me because that consultant got paid an obscene amount of money. He was only there for maybe a month. For maybe a month. Only shook his hand once in the time that he was there. Whole new beverage program, whole new implementation with phased out management, whole new bar team. My God. Yeah. So when I came back to Seattle, again, mind you, I'd already been in California on this whole, I can make this myself. So when I came back to Seattle, I was like, oh, let me go ahead and like work on building out a commissary company and just working behind the scenes and building out things like syrups and shrubs for bars, right? But a part of what got me there was helping out bars with their beverage programs that were failing. So I get a call from a friend. They're like, look, there's this steakhouse opening. I know this guy who bought the place. He doesn't know anything about a bar. But you come down, talk with him about his bar. Went down 3 days later. I'm staying there for 6 months at a time and working on a beverage program. So like my return to the West Coast into Seattle was really like kind of along the lines of moving into like this like alternate management as a consultant who just comes in, remakes the beverage program, possibly implements it, right? Because I'm not just the conceptualist, I'm the laborer. So as Erudite and Stone, for instance, this is my consulting company, Erudite and Stone Consulting. We do soup to nuts hospitality. You need it designed, you don't have it. You need it built, you don't have it. You need a location, you don't have it. You got a location and the bar's on one side of the building, all the plumbing's on the other side of the building. You want to redesign the entire inside.
Right.
You want to get new blueprints for a new redesign. You want to add another level. You want to change up the concept. You don't have a concept. Soup to nuts. You don't have labor. You don't have the people there. You don't know how to do profit and loss reports. You don't know how to do any of your paperwork. You don't know where to get your license. Soup to nuts. Hospitality. In whatever state. I'll get you the answer. We can make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So that put me in a position where I was holding entire beverage programs in my hand
There you go. Okay.
while doing special events. I mean, I'm throwing little things and I'm still like working at bars and I'm starting to craft bar relationships in a different way. So like I'm not working there as like a bartender solely. I'm working there and I'm picking up bar shifts while I'm implementing a
Consulting.
special events program, or
Okay.
while
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
building out their syrups program, or how they infuse alcohol, like their bitters and programs, or I'm doing their vermouth, right? So I'm there picking up shifts, but it's not the same as the other bartenders. I'm here with a contract
Right.
on the table that specifies I pick up a certain number of shifts, right? So like I'm not going to be here longer than 90 days at best in most of these places, right? So working in that kind of middle space where I have a whole lot of control over the talent behind the bar and what that talent should look like behind the bar, how the beverage program should work behind the bar, definitely has put me in a place where I'm making more money for a shorter period of time instead of being locked in as a manager who is on call pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a
Right.
week,
Right.
and making like maybe 65,
For a salary.
85, 25 or up if they're like at a really fine dining place, but then they pretty much sleep there.
Yeah, they definitely sleep in there.
Yeah.
They definitely sleep
No,
in there.
like, you know, they don't have another life outside. That's their main primary occupation, you know, then family and then whatever else.
If that.
So, so very, very short stints at places for contractual agreements for adding things to their beverage program.
Yeah. And a lot of
Is
people don't know
definitely
that type of flexibility is possible, because that's a lot of my early consulting work was like that too, where I was contracting to work for a certain set of months, but then just picking up shifts in the meantime. But meanwhile, like revamping, their, even if it's just small stuff. Like, I mean, I've had places be like weepy thank you just for like, something simple like, okay, build, in order from cheapest stuff to most expensive
Right,
materials. You
right.
know what I'm saying? Like just so yeah, a lot of people should really know that that's definitely something you could do because a lot of people don't see it as feasible for you to leverage your skill set that way. And a part of what we do with Mastery for Lifers is, teach mastery for restaurant and bar industry lifers. And a part of that has to be this career aspect and seeing it as a skill set that you can, leverage upwardly, socially, mobilely. So yeah, for sure, man. For sure, for sure. So how do we go from so give me a little bit into the cannabis. Give me a little bird's eye view on how you bridge those two worlds, how you kind of, got into that.
So, as I said, very curious. My I guess you could say the backbone for whatever work I've been doing over the last about 30 something years has been all in ethnobotany,
Right.
right? So the alcohol, like we could talk about origins of vodka, right? And then we could talk about the relation of what vodka translate to versus what whiskey translates to, or Iscavet, or what aquavit or eau de vie. I mean, like I could keep doing that. And again, even though I'm talking alcohol right now, I'm definitely talking ethnobotany because I'm
Right.
still talking about a spirit distilled in such a way that, and it comes from the lineage of alchemy, where they call it the water of life. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
base for infusions for alchemical work.
Right.
That distillate, that spirit that they're making, depending on where we're at, we're just going to call it a different name. So vodka, water of life, Iscavet whiskey, water of life, aquavit, water of
Mm-hmm.
life,
Water of life.
right?
Baby.
V,
Yeah.
water of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could go around the world and finding more and more analogs to this exact same concept. So if we're talking about infusions and this thing being kind of an alchemical base for various potions, various remedies, absolutely you would have to include the plant medicine that's involved. We can't talk about an infusion without talking about the thing that's being infused into, right? Like I can't be like, oh, let's talk about making raspberry vodka without talking about raspberries and
Right.
vodka, but
And vodka.
raspberries are necessary. So when it
Yeah.
comes to plant medicine, and I'm from the Northwest, like we've had cannabis programs in the 70s in the University of Washington for cancer and AIDS patients. We have never been a stranger to good weed. In fact, a whole bunch of people who are from here have never seen brown weed until
They
they
never seen
left.
mid. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know. In fact, a lot of people are like, the worst thing that recreationalization has done is that it's flooded our market with so much mids, where before we really had a high concentration. Like you could literally go somewhere, somebody come up to you and be like, hey, you want a dime bag? And you get a dime of weed that glows in the dark. It
It's
sparkles
neon.
like a diamond. And
Right.
now that's hard to come by. If you do come by, it's probably like $80 an eighth. Like the price for it that went up. It used to only be $10 a gram, regardless.
Right.
I mean, anyway, the idea that that is an easily accessible plant medicine up here, especially when we're talking about the treatment of arthritis, the treatment of imbalances in the gut, depression, inflammation is one of the bigger things on it, but it's also like got neuroprotectant properties. So let's say you want to remember things better. There are certain strains that have high levels of limonene and pinene, absolutely are like laboratory tested, neuroprotectant, neuroregenerative, meaning that they actually create brain cells. You using certain types of herb during certain tasks can absolutely affect your effectiveness at doing those tasks and retaining those tasks. So imagine using herb that's high in various compounds, terpenes, that have an action where they help your brain work better at retaining information, right? So you want to work on recall. You want to work on remembering parts of a text or whatever else. It has long been like a folk thing to smoke a little pot, sit down and read and digest the information,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and more of a myth that it causes you to forget shit,
Right.
because there's plenty of people who use it while they're reading and taking in whole stories, great storytellers,
Mhm.
you know, Willie Nelson, great storytellers. Bob Marley. I mean, great Capleton. They're great storytellers and don't use it shyly. It's not like, but not everything is for everyone. So to that effect, same thing with alcohol. Some people don't respond well to alcohol in general, which makes sense because it is a toxin, and the effects that people look for are what in homeopathy are called drop dosages, right?
Okay.
Sure, this thing's a poison at a baseline and higher in a dosage, but taking micro doses of this do not have the same effect. In fact, they have light euphoric effects. They can cause hallucinations in a way where we want you to have. They can cause disassociation in a way where we want you to dissociate, right?
Right.
So taking
Right.
a drop dosage, or in case of alcohol, a shot dosage, right? Like you're taking, I mean, like there's a prescribed amount that we use in comparative analysis to how much a person should drink reasonably. The amount of a shot versus a glass of wine versus a glass of beer, right? Like it's an actual relational value where we're saying across these mediums, on average, you are consuming this much actual ethanol alcohol, which is the poison. That's the toxin. That's what you're taking a drop dosage of, right?
Right.
If you're taking larger dosages of it, it starts to become problematic for how your systems work. Like parts of your body actually start shutting down. Alcohol poisoning. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we're using something that absolutely directly has ethnobotanical culture behind it. That's related to
Mhm.
alchemy. That's related to shamanism. That's related to how we use plant medicine. We're talking about infusing things oftentimes in alcohol to be used in extremely small dosages when we're talking about medicines made from it, right? Um, However, that's only one lineage or culture of it, right? There's others where it's like we use, the leftovers of our fruits, we ferment them, we distill those leftovers in order to keep the fruit. We put the fruit in the alcohol we distilled from the fruit because it keeps the fruit
Keeps the
forever
fruit from dying. I can still get
from
the
itself.
yeah,
We're
yeah, the
talking
value
about
of the fruit.
sustainability, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or they use the leftovers after fermenting to make wine, and then they distill that grappa, right? There's so many different ways that it's used, but almost all of those ways have been used for two things: preservation and health,
And health.
right? Like how people use things recreationally isn't, I mean, their power plants versus nuclear bombs, right? One was absolutely a part of the idea. Like, oh, I'm gonna make this, and we can have power. Everybody can have power, and everybody would be powered. And then other
Yeah.
people saw it and was like, you know what we could do though?
No, we can
We
do it
could
power.
drop that out of the air and blow everything up. Everything
Right.
up. What would it do if there were no containment? Oh, it would blow everything up. Great. Let's do that, right?
Let's do that.
So some people, they go out and drink and they blow everything up. They're not
Mm-hmm.
there to work their way through what Calvados means to not only the place where it comes from, but in its place within cocktails, flavor wise and historically, some people don't care about any of that,
Yeah.
and they'll come in and they'll get smashed. For those reasons, I have no problem with temperance movement things, like, yeah, that's absolutely a 3 drink cutoff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Comes in, let me get a shot of Jack. Pow. Let me get another shot of Jack. Pow. Let me get another shot of Jack. You're getting a check.
You're getting a water.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting a check
Yeah.
from
And
me.
a check.
Right.
And a check. Like,
And
hey,
a
here you
check.
go. Let's close out your bill real quick.
Before you do that.
Yeah. And part of that is because we live in a consumption culture, and at one point in time, that
It's
wasn't
mitigated.
something that was able to be done at scale. It was something that was introduced to indigenous peoples at scale, like
Mm.
taking thousands of a thing and that not being enough, that you need thousands of a thing,
Mm.
and that's still not enough,
Still not enough.
So when it comes to alcohol, a lot of people's approach even in building cocktails are like that. Like two ingredients is not enough. It has to have this. There's got to be more.
Right.
You know, there has to be citrus in everything. We got to put lemon juice in everything. Lime juice, lemon juice, grapefruit juice. I know citruses. Orange juice. Let me see. Pomelo. I can keep naming off citruses. We're gonna put the citrus juice in everything.
Yuzu,
Right?
yuzu. It needs yuzu.
Yuzu. Yes, absolutely. Yuzu. We need yuzu now. Stat. And then the same thing with how, liquor is sold. So a lot of people have this idea behind what is a dark versus what is a light liquor, um, and what is a dark versus a gold rum, right?
Right.
And don't know the differences between a gold tequila
Mm-hmm.
and a blanco, a reposado, or an añejo,
Uh-huh.
you know, but want tequila or want rum or don't want dark and they only want light. I
Right.
love showing people a bottle of Tito's and being like, you don't like any dark? They're like, no dark. I don't fuck with whiskey. You like Tito's? I love Tito's. That's my shit. I drink Tito's all day. 100% corn. This is
Right.
corn whiskey.
It's just
White
corn.
Lightning. It is unaged corn whiskey by
Yep.
American standards. It's made from nothing but corn
Mm-hmm.
and bottled between 80 and 100 proof. This is
100
corn
proof,
whiskey.
right.
B. No, how could it be? You put this in a go on Amazon and order yourself a barrel, little tiny barrel. Might cost you like $5 a barrel. You probably get 2 for 10. And pour your Tito's in there. And give it a few months, like 4 months, like 4 months, and you've made yourself corn whiskey.
Mellow corn.
It's now corn whiskey.
Old granddad. He just made
it. Old crow.
All right,
Straight
right.
corn.
And it's not the medicine shop.
Corn mellow. Corn mellow.
Right. Hey, look. It's a new product. We have to get we have to get LaMelo Ball or like somebody to advertise that one for us. I'm coming up on the end of my time frame here, I think. I want to ask you a couple more things for some advice just for my potential, audience. If someone was trying to start a bar right now, they don't know how to start a bar or open a restaurant, and they just come into a bunch of money, and they've always wanted to do it. What would you tell them they need to be focused on first?
I would tell them to focus on what they want it to actually look like, what they want it to feel like. If they're just like, a bar is a great way to generate money, it's not. It's absolutely not a great way to generate money. It's not. Does that mean that bars aren't profitable? Bars are insanely profitable. Don't confuse the two. One is cash flow. Cash flow is a thing. If you want a business that will give you great cash flow, there are plenty of businesses that will give you great cash flow. Bars have holding costs. And so even though it looks like this bar turned over $40,000 this month, they keep on hand at all times $20,000 of booze. So if their actual net sales are only $22,000 and some wild change, then they're only clearing $2,000. So if they say they clear $40,000, they only made $20,000, and that only matches their booze holding cost. That does not actually match any profit, right? So like, they have to make 3, 4, 5 times that. That's the whole point of having a bar nested in a restaurant. So I would definitely say, strongly consider what you want your identity to be as a bar. Are you a neighborhood bar? Are you a destination bar? Are you a concept bar? Is this something where if you have a season where you don't make money, will that break you? If you're like putting money into it because you need to make more money, I would definitely say think of other things to generate more passive income than a bar. Become a partner in a bar first. So instead of just opening up your own place, find a bar that's already operating well. See if you can talk to anybody who can direct you towards ownership. Make an offer at being one of the angel investors in the bar itself. And that way you're getting a return on a bar that's already operational, that's already got all the things in place that you may not have. Like, for instance, that vision, Like if you don't know that you want to be a 1990s lunchbox bar and everything you do is 1990s themed, and all your
Right.
drinks are served in and around ideas that come from lunch boxes. Same thing with your food, lunch
Right.
boxes, right? I mean, like, if you don't know what you want to be, then putting that money out there is a great way to keep pouring your money into something that's not quite working because people can't quite see it. You haven't quite visualized it, so therefore you haven't quite executed it. And
Right. And if you
people
can't see
showing
it, they
up,
can't see it.
yeah, exactly. So I would tell somebody who's really, I mean, if they're adamant about it, make sure that they sit down, they really write out a business plan, not for investment, not for anybody else, but to see if they can put their bar into succinct language. If they can't, then they need to spend some time on that idea until they can easily describe the kind of bar they want to be. If they can do that, then, and it's a labor of love, go for it. Again, if they cannot make money for a season and it don't break them, like maybe they only have a 300 square foot bar and they only have 28 seats, they could open by appointment only, right? If their rent is low enough, if they buy the building or they buy the location, and so they're paying land tax, right? They're paying
Mhm.
property tax. They're paying their triple net. I mean, like they're paying insurance. They're paying other overhead that they can cover when that bar is closed for an extended period of time. Then they can
Yeah.
do absolutely anything they want with that bar.
Anything.
Absolutely. So they came into some money. It ain't gonna break their bank to not be, cranking out drinks and making lots of profit. They can hyper focus on doing whatever they want. They want to do a cigar cheeseburger bar. That's all they do. Everything is cigars and cheeseburgers. Best cheeseburgers ever. Smash burger, best cheeseburgers ever. Anybody who's got an argument like, oh, that's no In-N-Out burger, look at number 2 on the menu. I'm not saying we bit In-N-Out, but we call that an out and in. And it's got animal
But out
style.
any.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we've got
Yeah.
a representation for all of the best
Hmm.
burgers, and maybe we even do a pop up best slice. And we got
Hey, I
people who
hope
come
somebody
out from New
taking
York to
notes.
do a New York pizza slice versus a Chicago
Right.
style versus, you know what I'm saying? And we can keep
Uh-huh.
going. Or a barbecue pop up where, okay, they're like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they have
We
so
got
much
cigar rolling
flexibility.
classes with burgers and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, I hope somebody taking notes. You giving somebody a business idea right
And
now.
I hope so because the more places that we have that are, I mean, representation matters. The more food and beverage that we have across the country, the more we normalize culture in food and beverage, right? Like, like we affect each other so greatly when it comes to food and beverage that if it's a thing in your region, like for instance, if you were going to New England, what would be some foods you might have in New England?
Right. Some clam chowder.
Right. You know what I'm
Some
saying? I
lobster
mean,
bisque.
but if
Yeah.
somebody was like, hey man, you're going to Texas. Oh man, I can't wait to get down there and get some clam chowder. That's a little odd. That's a little
I
odd.
feel it.
That's a
Fuck
little odd.
that.
Looking for
We don't do
barbecue
that
in New
here.
England and clam chowder in Texas, I think that you got your light
Yeah.
switches switched.
Right.
Your
You go to
on's off.
Zaxby's like, y'all got, let me get that Philly cheesesteak special y'all got at Zaxby's.
Yeah, I mean, so, but the more we have food and beverage, the more we can say, oh, bro, I do have a representation of some of the best barbecue you can get in New England. In fact, I would say anywhere in the New England, you know what I mean? Area. In fact,
Yeah.
I'd say east of the Mississippi, like bold
Right. Corner
claims.
of the market.
Right. I mean, the only
You
reason
see.
they got scotch in Japan is because a guy who lived in Scotland was like, look, this shit's banging, worked at it, took the scotch back with him. I mean, this is a very ugly history retelling, but the point is, he took the scotch with him, and now you can get amazing scotch out of Japan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Baller is
So
like
is
my
it really
favorite
that
Scotch
far off
style
to
whiskey
find
for sure.
one person in all of New England who makes jerk chicken that reminds you of the Caribbean? I don't know. I don't know. New England sound off. Who got the best jerk chicken?
Somebody doing it. Put it in the
Somebody doing it.
comments right now below. Who got the best?
Right. We need to
Who
know.
got who got the best umfufu in Connecticut? I need to know who got the best African cuisine in Connecticut.
Look, you know. So
I'm
yeah, I
messing with
mean,
it. I'm
if they're
messing
gonna
with
go
it.
for it, go for it. Go for it with
Okay.
everything. But just keep in mind that you really want to dial in before you start putting money down. you really want to dial in how you want to approach the bar. There are plenty of places that didn't have a vision and they were just like, we'll figure out as we go. But they had the talent. They've got a chef who's a visionary. They've got a bar manager who's just intuitive. You know, like the things he's doing, he looks online, he finds one thing, I got a roto vape. He's got the funds. And now he's over here distilling pebbles into a vermouth so that he could have this river water taste in his vermouth for his martinis. You know, like there's people who have the talent. In those places, you could give them a bunch of white walls with no identity on them, and they'll crank out a
Right.
drink that is amazing. They'll crank out food that is amazing, and people will come for the drink and they will come for the food. They are not coming for the place, right?
Right.
So if he wants to have a place, then he should really consider, or they should really consider how they want to approach having a place, you know? And then from there, you know, really refine that vision until they can see it and run with it. And if they have the funds where they're insulated, pop up. Go
Right.
places and just take over a space. If you have the funds, before you put your money down on a brick and mortar and lock in at one place, spend a year, experiment with the market. You know, it might not be your market. You might just take a trip. And that's the thing about a pop-up. You could absolutely go to somebody else's market and experiment. You know, Master P did that with music from the South, right? He popped his
Mm-hmm.
trunk and brought Southern music to the West. People were like, I ain't never heard this before.
Right.
So,
What you
you
think?
know,
Yeah.
taking cheesesteaks, you know, to like southeastern Idaho, right? And hitting them foods off with cheesesteaks, and you got 10 different types of cheesesteaks you make.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just
Might
gonna see, you know, I'm just gonna see, you know.
corner the
I
market,
got,
you know?
yeah, if it might be like wildfire there. If so, it might make sense for you to pop up for a few places to find out what market really is the one that you want to actually flagship out of, and then look at brick and mortars, because you might find that what would be successful where you love it, yeah, sure, everybody loves it, but it's oversaturated and there's all types of it everywhere. Or
Mm-hmm.
sure, people love it, but there's not enough people who are going to eat it every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have that kind of foot, but there are some places where people will. People will put in daily orders. They will come, they will eat your food, they will drink your drinks every damn day.
Yeah, I've
So
seen
great
it.
way to find that out. Pop up, pop up before you brick and mortar.
So know what you want to do in terms of your concept, whether it be what you're offering or what your ambiance and vibe is. See if you can partner with people in terms of investorships. You can get a little bit of that owner operator juice or sauce on your belt. And then, you know, branching out from there, experimenting into pop-ups as a way of testing yourself, testing the market, seeing if you can get a corner on the market, offering something that other people in your immediate place aren't have, but you have the agriculture product to support that offering. That's really just that's the masterclass right there. You just gave it. That's it. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. I got one more question. It's pretty much the same thing, but for bartenders, like people who are, maybe it's a someone watching this who's a bar back or a server who wants to go kind of like to the level of it where we're at with bartending. What would you say to them as far as starting out and having a nice long career?
Well, that's an easy one.
There you go.
Go abuse yourself straight up. You're not going to get to this level without like actually being tested in fire. I just worked a shift and we got slammed. It's been a long time since I've been in the weeds
Hmm.
frantically. Nah, bro. I weed. I
Right,
weed great.
right.
Like my cocktail server is more likely to have troubles because I build drinks by the round. So if I get hit with 7 tickets with 12 drinks on them, I'm absolutely building 5 to 6 tickets at a
At one
time.
time,
Yeah,
exactly.
and setting all
But you
my
should do.
glassware up, even pre-garnishing. So when I drop, if anything, they need hands. They need
Mm-hmm.
more hands to get the drink outs on time than they have. There's only so
Right,
many trays they can carry. If they're carrying 2 trays, how are they going to hand people the drinks on the tray to them? Right? So there's only so many drinks they can hold, and I can
right.
make more drinks than a tray holds if need be, and not break a sweat. And that's not from being at home and practicing those drinks. That's from actually being in situations where I have to
Being on
apply
fire.
certain techniques and methods in order, and I have to do it
Yeah.
under execution, like under stress. I have to execute under stress. So for that, you really want to get your chops up, go get a job at a high volume steakhouse or something that has a very, very extensive menu, and get you a Friday shift, get you a Saturday shift, and hold those down for like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave. No matter how ugly it gets. Oh, they didn't pay me on time. Yeah, that happens. I can't get coverage. I just needed a few days off to myself. You work Friday and Saturday, dog, and you're the strongest one on the bar. You don't get
Right.
days off. You
Yeah.
don't get days off. I didn't
With
get
great
to eat
power
a
comes
hot
great
meal.
responsibility.
Hot meal for what? Hot meal for what? You're the lead. You're eating a hot meal. That means somebody's not getting a cold drink.
Ooh.
Learn
That's another
that there are
t-shirt. That's another
sacrifices
t-shirt.
that comes with operating in a way where you're like, I can do this, right? Because if you can't get the I can do this energy down in the food and beverage, then you don't have a shell thick enough to deal with the hard days. And that's the no money days. That's the red line days. That's the order didn't come in days. That's the our cocktail menu isn't selling like we needed it to after we invested $10,000 into the cocktail menu, separate from the actual ingredients of the cocktail menu days. Like all of that stuff takes a certain temperance and a certain built up amount of character. And the best way to get that character is to actually work in the industry at the higher end of the industry. And the only way you get into that higher end of that industry is working your way into it.
Yeah.
Working your way into it.
Yep.
Whether you start as a busboy or a dishwasher or something in a place, and then like, can I get to bar back? Teach me how you guys make Manhattans. Like there's actual amount of time that you can put in, and look for places where you're like, I want to learn my skills like that. So if you want to learn how to be higher end bartender, go to places where they do high end bartending, study them, ask to get on, see if you can get on in any capacity at those places. In any capacity. You want to do front of house, you want to work at a spot that has 4 bartenders that hold down every shift that they ever have. And these bartenders between them have over 150 years of tenured knowledge and experience behind that bar. The only way
Right.
you're going to get behind that bar is if they fall in love with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we love it. Oh my God, this is the best.
We
He
want
clears the
him.
dishes faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sometimes I'll be reaching for a bottle and they put it in my hand. It's crazy. I mean, like, I just be like, bottle, and they'd be like, wow. Hell yeah. Worthy behind the bar. Need them behind the bar. They have what it takes. I'll show them some drinks. Like, check it out. This is my little hack when I'm making a Negroni. Or I never build my drinks over ice so that I'm not over diluting the drink before I go to actually chill the drink. Like you start wanting to pass that information on to them.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways where you could get into a place, go work at a shitty place so that you can go get on at a really nice place that's small, that's got an intimate bar family, work as a server for a little bit, check out what that's like, get into their wine program, check out what that's like, get into their cocktail program, check out what that's like, make a few cocktails, see if you can pick up a shift here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it definitely isn't something where you're like, I got trained to make these cocktails. And I
Right.
got
And just
bar
these
school
cocktails.
credentials, and I just finished my WASET. So put me in the game, coach. Most places are gonna stage you in the first place,
Yeah.
meaning
Yeah.
that what they're not gonna do is hire you just because you say you can bartend. Even if you can really bartend, they're gonna want to see you bartend, and so they're gonna put you in there and see what you do behind the bar. And some places will give you no information. They will give you
Right.
no menu to work off of. They'll be like, so go do it.
Right.
And you'll go in there and then somebody will sit down while you're still talking to them and they'll look at you like, this is what you wanted, right? And you're like, I don't even know what you guys sell. Hold on. Hey, how are you doing today? Right? They're going to want to see you bartend, because you got to be a self-starter and you got to be self-managed and you got to be self-regulating and you got to watch the whole bar and you got to make sure that you're taking care of people. And if you can do that, any place will put you on.
Yeah.
If they see you can do that, any place will put you on. The only other way that people really get put on, so to speak, is they get recruited. Like people will sit at their bar who own bars and they'll be like, damn, I'm opening a bar. I need you at my bar. I will give you this. And they will give you options like, hey, you could have the whole bar program. Some people, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And to get there, you still have to show and prove, as they say. So
Right.
my suggestion
Yeah.
is go get abused.
Go get abused and go abuse yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
that's
abuse yourself. Go
definitely
put yourself out there. You don't get no damn vacation days. Forget bathroom breaks and hot
right.
meals, right? Because
Yeah.
how are you
That
gonna get
sounds
a
like
hot meal
bougie.
if you're working at the hottest spot in town?
Yeah. No. 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 Not at work. Nah, it's not happening.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't
You have
pause
to.
the gas. They
You
don't pause the
gotta.
guest. It's not like they're pausing service. You're like, hold on, I gotta pee. Yeah, but you got 10 tickets up, and we just sat 2 more 4 tops and 3 10 tops. We've got
Yeah.
banquet bussing right now. Where are you going?
You
I
can't
got
go
pee.
anywhere.
Yeah, you're already 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
behind on 2 of these tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Now we gotta go comp stuff.
Right. No, I can't do that.
I just want to eat a snack real quick. Sit down for 15 minutes.
What?
No.
You must want to sit down at another job. No, I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Go get you a job like that because you will absolutely learn at least 75% of what you'll need to know, right? Like to keep your own place afloat. You
Yeah.
know, if you get slammed and you're running a spot and you can't personally save it, I've worked
Mm-hmm.
at places that have had to close. And I
Because
don't
they
mean
were too
like
busy.
shutter their doors. I mean like, damn, our bartender didn't show up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do?
Right.
What are we gonna do? Our bartender didn't show up.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just close today because we make our margin off the bar. We don't make our money off the food.
Off the food. Mm-hmm.
We lose money off the food. We depend on the bar to shore us up. I've seen them shut their doors for a day because they couldn't cover the bar shift.
Wow. That. Yeah, I mean that whole first of all, that was like another masterclass. That's how you do it. I always try to tell people the training that we provide in the community is supplementary. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that's gonna replace you going and getting some experience. We can cut your learning curve, you know what I'm saying? Nothing's gonna replace you learning how to deal with the shits. One
Yeah,
of the
fact.
mottos of Master for Lifers is you can't be in the weeds if you don't give a fuck. The only way you get to not giving a fuck is by being in that place so much that it's normal for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure, for sure, for sure. I know I said that was the last one, but you brought up a good point. I just have to touch on because Portland is facing this right now. What do we do about this barmageddon? So many people, the turnover rates in the industry are just out of hand, again, really crazy. Do you think there's anything we can do about this from an industry perspective? Hello? Did I lose you? Still there? He's out of there. All right, stop recording. We'll just bleed that
Yeah.
directly into an outro and I'll fix it in the editing. So yeah, like I was saying, I just wanted to you brought up a good point I wanted to bring up about what do you think about this? There's an article that Eater PDX did that was talking about how Portland is facing a barmageddon. Lots of places are closing, and a lot of that is due to high employee turnover. Part of what I started the community to kind of help address, kind of training people to realize it as a career and see it as something that you can be upwardly socially mobile in and have a passion about. I mean, aside from just that, you know, what do you think we could do about that? Like, what do you think we could do as an industry? Is there anything we could do about the Barmageddon?
So I think a lot of places are experiencing very similar like waves of closure
Hmm.
for a lot of like nuanced reasons. But one of them is there's like becoming a clash between toxic beverage, food and beverage culture practices behind the lines, behind the scenes,
Okay.
and what that actually means towards the employee retention. More and more people are starting to find other outlets, other jobs that don't have as much stress, that they make about as much money, and if not more. I think the best way to handle the closures is to just, enjoy the places that are around while they're around. Right now, there's a trend in ownership cancellations, and I'm not just saying like cancel culture, but like same stuff that you've been seeing in every other industry, sexual allegations affecting the identity of the brand. So I think you're seeing a lot of places close because the places aren't operating with the heart that a place that is about hospitality should, regardless of the product that they're putting out. For that, there's nothing that you can do but as an entrant into the industry is be the best that you can be in the industry, right? Like I can't shore up another business unless we're willing to cross pollinate, unless we're willing to partnership. And until you have more areas working with their chamber of commerce to build a particular economy around a particular bar culture, around a particular food and beverage culture, right? Like having an area where rents are subsidized, where the amount of social spaces are opened up, restrictions are lowered for how they can socialize in those areas. So think like 6th Street or Las Vegas, where you can
Okay.
actually walk down the street with a cocktail, right?
Or like the Beltline in Atlanta.
Right. So like if you have these areas where you're subsidizing the rents, where you're bolstering the food and beverage culture, you're going to have less closures just on that alone, regardless of the toxic nature of things. Because there's always going to be turnover, there's always going to be attrition, and the only way that you can really fix that is by fixing the bar culture at that particular place. But there's plenty of people who get into the bar for short-term temporary money to get through school. So there's a 4-year span for them on it at best, right? There's lots of bar owners who got into the industry to do that, and they became bar owners because that's your 401k, that's your retirement in the industry for most people is to actually end up opening their own place. So I think to treat the toxicity is one thing, to have areas where it is promote it to be food and beverage instead of food and beverage having to fight for like an outlet. Like there's nothing in this area. Yeah, there's a reason why there's not a spot in that area. You know what I'm saying? Like people aren't patronizing spots in that area. You know what I'm saying? So like to have to fight to have a space in order to, provide a wonderful product and a wonderful service for people definitely is its own challenge in addition to getting those feet in the door and those butts in the seats and those stomachs full and those hearts full, right? So approaching your chamber of commerce, cross-pollinating with other businesses, and creating loose partnerships, if not just allyships, where, when we promote a particular week of doing a thing, we do it together. Restaurant week, cocktail week are examples of this, right? Where groups of people, groups of restaurants all participate. And this heightens the awareness of these other restaurants as places to go, right? Because people don't know what people don't know. So like marketing and doing so in a way where you're including your other neighborhoods and building it as a community instead of it being a singular destination. Because let's face it, if you don't have the capture rate, right? Like if you don't have high volumes of people walking by your doorway, then you're not going to have high volumes of people pouring in your door if they don't know you. So if the only thing you can do is promote virtually to get people to come buy everything you have, then focus on that, you know? And then the other part is business savvy. A lot of people jump into opening a spot because they have 6 figures to invest and they think that's going to be enough to get going. But a lot of them don't know even an aftermarket kitchen setup that's like up to code is going to run you 65,000 used. So because you've got 6 figures, that's baby money for opening a spot. That's damn sure not enough to operate a spot for the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever the ROI that you want either for yourself or your investors is, you know? So like making sure that your business savvy is there. You're not getting a place where the overhead cost, your rent cost, your lease isn't more expensive than you're going to be able to bring profit. That your lease is going to be renewable is another one, right? Because there's a lot of places that close down simply because they don't have actual control of the location. They're leasing, and they don't want to renew their lease anymore for whatever factors. Like we could go into that's a whole separate thing, but for whatever factors, lots of places end up shuttering also because they just lose their lease. And going back to that whole six figures is baby money in opening a spot. Imagine losing your lease and you can't extract all of the equipment that you just built structurally into this place. You have to go to a different place. It has its own cost on what you can take out of that place, but you're going to have to renovate whatever space you move into, and that's got its own price tag. This puts businesses down for months. It means that they have to rebuild their fellowship months down the line. It'll shift a brick and mortar into a catering business real fast, and it's probably a better idea to shift from a catering business into a brick and mortar. So that business savvy on really figuring out what's going to be keyword of the day, sustainable, in order to maintain this business at a baseline, even though the frequency of money is like a sine wave, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
so being able to figure out how like we can really just make this actually work, that we got everything that we need, you know, like we don't have to talk to anybody. And if we did, we even have those. We have people we could talk to fix it, you know, consultants. We have a pool of investors, so if we needed to shore the company up or shore the restaurant up, like get everything there. I'm not saying you should have all your ducks in a row. Sure does help with making sure that you keep a place running and keeping your staff happy.
Right.
You got unhappy staff, you're going to have unhappy guests. You got unhappy
Mm-hmm.
guests, then you're going to have bad reviews. You got bad reviews, then there's not going to be anything to substantiate that your shit's good except word of mouth. And so you'll be relying on the few people who want to talk good about you after you done pissed off so many people who came into your doors.
Right.
You know, so like
I like them.
right, you know, no, keep your staff happy, you know, and the best way to do that is to make sure that they can get coverage. You know, again, addressing the toxic issues in food and beverage and restaurant culture. They're getting breaks, that they're getting food, that they have coverage, that they have backup, you know, that they
Yeah.
feel like their team members are actually team members. You know, all of the right. So if places are just open up to fast food craft, you know, out the door, then they're going to keep having closures and they're going to keep having attrition and turnover because their focus is not actually the hospitality. It's the facade of hospitality while they're doing toxic things to their employees, while they're having toxic relationships with their guests. You know, I mean, think of it like some places that'll charge you for some shit you didn't like.
Right. We don't. It's not our policy. We don't take that off the check after you order it.
Yeah, nah, you didn't like it? Well, you should order something else next time. Yeah, nah. Versus places who are like, how was, you know, the duck confit? And you're like, it was all right.
You didn't love
We don't do this for all right.
it.
Was there anything else on there that like piqued your? Nah, I'm good. I don't really want anything. The least I can do then is take the duck confit. It's on us tonight. Thank you for coming in. You know? And if they're treating their guests like that and they're treating their employees like that, the only thing they got to worry about is the structural aspects. You know, again, can they renew their lease? Can they pay
Right.
their bills? If they can pay their bills, renew their lease, that they're insulated, they're good, that'll correct a lot of things. You know, if they're cross-pollinating with other businesses, that means when somebody else is hot, they're hot too. You know,
Right.
because the first thing the bartenders are going to get asked by somebody who's leaving, where should I go next? You got to go down the street, go see Jack. He makes one hell of a Negroni. Let me tell you, Negroni, what's a Negroni? Ask him. He's also the best person in the world.
To tell it, right. Let me write this down. You get us with some keywords on this interview, man. This is great. Sustainability. That's like should have been the first tattoo I got, honestly. Especially coming from an Afro-Indigenous background. Sustainability and what'd you say? Ethnobotany, is that the term you used?
Yes.
Ethnobotany, yep. Love it. We're gonna come up with that. Awesome, man. Hey, this was so high level. Couldn't have asked for a better first interview. Super duper appreciate you coming on, man. How can we tell the people how we can support you in the next, just going for whatever you're working on, what we should reach out or plug you or whatever?
Check me out on Instagram at drink science. Just tune in. Look at some of the stuff I'm doing. You ain't even gotta like nothing. I don't really care about nothing like that. I do it more out of the art. However, if you did need service or anything like that, you can always drop me a DM that way. And even if it's something personal, like, I need a drink that I will like wherever I go and I can get anywhere. I want my own drink. I will help you conceptualize your own drink that you can get anywhere. And that could also be for your company. We want our own drinks that like nobody can get except for us. I do that too. So you can holler at me through
There you
my
go.
socials that way. Probably the best way to holler at me is through my socials for things like that. Otherwise, just check out some of the drinks, pick up some ideas, get some inspiration, follow some of the people who fuck with me who are in their own right geniuses with how they handle the culture and how they present it because they actually care about it. And that's both on the cannabis side as well as the food and beverage. There's some really dope people in my circle who care about how people are in the culture, who care about how we are and how we interact with each other. So
Right.
best way you can support is just, join the family.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Plug in. Tap in. I love it. Hey man, this is fantastic. Get this edited. We'll have it up here pretty soon. I have a couple clips coming out on Instagram. Barman, Jack Sanders. Hey, I like if you didn't believe in God before this interview happened, Yona, you believe in God now. Yeah, like I like, bro, you came across my radar back when I was still in Atlanta. Like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want. I need to go somewhere with cannabis legal so I can bring it together with alcohol and been able to have a little bit of steps and here's to going forward. And I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to see how I can what I'm saying, like you said, cross pollinate and get something on the whole pan PNW movement going between what we got going on out here and what y'all got going on up there. So hey, I appreciate you, man. Peace.
Likewise, man. Be easy. Thank you for having me on.